And here we go. Here's my YouTube page. You can see the daily posts automatically being generated by veo3 using the My Camino Guide daily advisories, and 100% of my workflow now for my Pilgrim Guide is automated by AI agents. Let's step back and I'll show you how to do it. This is my YouTube channel that's associated with My Camino Guide. Effectively, what I'm doing is I'm using veo3 to generate some pretty funny short videos that I can share about a pilgrim walking the Middle Ages. I thought it'd be a fun, exciting way. And each one of these videos, if I click in on them, you'll see that it's got a short little thing and then a prompt about potentially checking out the website My Camino Guide. So it's driving a little bit of traffic, not too much right now. What I want to do is I want to automate this process of generating the videos and uploading them to YouTube. I'd like to take an advisory such as something like this one here and use that as the prompt into veo3 to generate the video, automate that process, part of the cron job that generates this daily Camino News digest, and post it on YouTube. Okay, I'm back inside Klein here. Now, I wanted to start having a think about how I'm going to implement this. I have a general idea, and what I've done is I've gone ahead and created a prompt to start with. So as I mentioned before, I want to select a random advisory report of each day when creating the Camino Daily News and use that report as a prompt to generate a video with veo3. Now with veo3, I've given a little bit of information that says you're a pilgrim in the Middle Ages, walking the Camino and sharing this important news. After that, I did a little bit of research, and the best way that I can see to call veo3 is using the Gemini APIs. I've given my prompt the link to the URL over here. And then importantly, once I get the video generated, I want to take it and submit it to my YouTube channel. So I've given the prompt the information on my YouTube channel here. A few last things that I want to make sure that I take into account. If you remember from the previous video, and I'll link that up above if you haven't watched it already, I use a Vercel cron job to create the existing Camino News, those Camino Digest things. The one tricky thing that I'm not quite sure about is throughout this process, when veo3 generates the video, it needs to store it somewhere and then use that to upload it into YouTube. There's a couple of different ways I could do it. Typical way is something like S3 for blob storage, but I also know that Vercel has blob storage, and because my cron job and my website is already on Vercel, I'd like it to check out how to use the Vercel blob storage. If that doesn't work, the second option that I have, since I already am using OpenAI, and I've used OpenAI's file storage in the past for some other projects that I've done, potentially use OpenAI's file storage. It might end up being a little bit more expensive than S3, so I may change it later on. But since I already use OpenAI for the LLM, I thought this is a really good place to start. So let's switch over to Klein and let's have a look at the prompt itself. Drop the prompt inside here. And again, we're in plan mode. Let's let it run and see what it thinks about a good idea to go forward. So the plan is starting to come back. Okay, it's re-summarized what I need to do. It's going to look at the code to know what's going on, understand the routes and the plans. Now it's going off to explore the code, come back with a solid plan for how to implement it. I've noticed recently too the context window and token usage is much more optimized in Klein recently. This is one of the big benefits that I really like about using Klein is I can see all of this information as I'm coding and as I'm working. If I notice that context window is starting to fill up, I will know when to stop a particular task or project. I've also been looking at something like Claude Code as well, because I've heard that those autonomous agents can run for up to 30 hours. So if there's a big task or a big process, that might be a great way to do it. But from what I've found so far in Klein, I just keep an eye on that context window. As soon as it starts to get about 80%, I look at ways that I can stop this task and get ready to create a new task. And I can do that quite easily in here by just clicking the new task button in Klein. Again, just having that visibility of that context window up front is really, really helpful for me here. All right, let's come back with a plan. Let's have a look at this plan. So what it's suggesting to do is create a table, Camino News videos to keep track of it. That's great. Add a number of environment variables to support everything that is required. Yes, that looks good. Integration points. It's going to go to Veo to generate the video, Vercel Blog Helper, YouTube Upload Helper. Yeah, this all looks great. Interesting. Here's what it's doing is starting to suggest the prompt. You're a medieval pilgrim. Yep. I just want to make sure that inside the description that gets added on the YouTube video, it's always calling back to my Camino guide. I already have something set up inside my YouTube channel anyway for default text. So if you go inside here and have a look, there's a short information here, but then there is also a standard bit of information that I add in here. So we're interested to see what the subject becomes and the title becomes. So we'll see how that goes. But at this point, I think I'm ready to start it. We'll probably tweak it as we go. This is a pretty complex set of tasks, so I'm sure there'll be quite a few iterations. It looks like client has finished its job. It's gone and created a file, Gemini TS, or a TypeScript add, where it's adding the information. I need to use the Google API key, so I've got to add there. It's added support for Blob, which is what I asked for Vercel. And then it's gone and created a bunch of YouTube upload helpers. I need to go set all of these environment variables, no problem. Then the interesting thing is the video generation. Make sure that it goes into the right spot. I saw that it was trying to update Supabase as well. I'll be interested in how it's actually supporting that. It looks like it's just to pull the information back out based on a date. So if I look at this generate video with a date, but it should really be using Vercel. I'm going to go through and check that. And then here, this is what's really interesting. It's creating a Supabase there. Okay, so let's have a look at the overview, how it works at runtime. So the cron job kicks off at 6 a.m., which is the way it uses for the Camino news already. Inserts all that daily digest into Supabase, as well as it triggers this new route, generate video. Generates the video from Supabase. Okay. Streams the video to a temp. I'm not sure if temp will work on side Vercel. We'll see how that goes. Then uploads to YouTube. Records it as a blob URL. I need to run a couple of scripts inside Supabase. So Camino News SQL and Camino News SQL video. So let's have a look at these guys. Prompts and run SQL News. I'm going to select all of this. Drop it inside Supabase. Let that run. That looks good. SQL News video. Drop that guy in here. What I need to do is add all these keys into my Vercel project. I already have my Supabase, OpenAI keys, things like that. I just need to go and add my next variables. Let me do that. It's time to start putting this all to a test. Let's run it locally first, make sure everything works before we push it up. Just ask a quick prompt to test my new video generation service. Once I have everything ready, here's my simple prompt description that's been created. I think I'll update this here, fellow pilgrims. Feels a little cheesy and disingenuous to me. I'll probably change it to something like a call out to my Camino guide. And I'll also update the videos inside here. But in terms of my positive prompts, this is what I want. Camino de Santiago, Pilgrim, Medieval, Camino News, and Advisory. And the type of video it's going to be creating, an MP4. So at this point, all that's left is my actual prompt itself. It's providing the advisory information, gives the details on the type of pilgrim that I are, the medieval pilgrim walking in the Middle Ages. Should feel authentic. Speaking of first pilgrim, that all looks pretty good. Let's run npm dev to run it locally, see how it all works. All right, it took me about 2 hours of work to go back and forth to get everything wired up correctly. What I realized is that I started using veo3 APIs. What's changed over time is it's now called Vertex AI. It's effectively the API wrapper that uses veo3. I stumbled across a great getting started guide here from Google on the generative AI. This gave me all the pieces of the information that I needed to shift from veo3 to the Vertex AI APIs. In particular, I needed a project ID, location, and some client details. Once I have this information, I could feed it back to Klein, and Klein went and created everything that I needed with a few little tweaks. So if I break everything down, what's inside here now is I have a few aspects. I have the generate video route, and this is really what is used to generate the video itself and then post it to YouTube. So you'll see here is my YouTube title and description, pass all that information itself. Once I have all of that, I can then use a prompt. And this prompt is what I'm using to build and provide to Vertex or veo3 to create the video itself. Once I have all of that information together, I then have to store it all in a blob storage inside Vercel's Blog Storage, make it all available, and then push it. Now I've gone ahead and ran one video generation recently, so you'll see the name of it down here, advisory. It's gone and written it to the blob storage as well as to YouTube. Before I publish things into YouTube, if I have a look at my page here, everything is set to private that I was generating. This very first video that uploaded, if I'll run it, there's no audio. So there's a Vertex flag that you can add audio enabled. I set that one to true, fixed that problem. But now the only things that I need left to do here, if I click into the last one that's generated, generates great. Exactly what I need. I like the style, but there's a few things that are missing that will probably stop me turning it to public. So the thumbnail, I need to set that thumbnail to auto-generated, and I need to set the audience to no, it's not made for children, or it is made for children. That's no problem. And then set the visibility to public. I want to do all of that with inside the API. So I'm going to jump back to Klein and add those small changes, and then I think I should be set. So let's do update the YouTube video to set it to public, auto generate the thumbnail. The big thing that was taking quite a while for me is this Gemini code. So I moved this over to Vertex, and this is where it contains all the information for the authentication requirements that I included before. That's not very interesting, but what is interesting is all of the parameters that I can start to set. So the aspect ratio, the duration, all those type of things that you saw me passing in from the YouTube video. This is the generate audio that I missed on the first round, but now it looks pretty good. Now that I have that file, it's pretty easy to go ahead and generate and create these things. So let's see how Klein is going. Klein's updating the YouTube file with the parameters and requirements that I saw, as you can see here. Now it sets privacy status, tokens, tags, categories. Okay, at that point, it's run, and I have my video ID right here. So that's all looking good. Let's jump back to YouTube itself. Have a look at my content. Refresh the page. Still uploading. I can see that it's set the information here. It's not made for kids, which is great. But the video is still set to private. Let's run the video and see what it looks like.
Decathlon has updated its women's sizing for outdoor gear, essential for pilgrims preparing for the Camino.
Not bad.
Check new size charts before purchasing.
So the video looks great. Okay, I read through the information here and I see what is stopping it. So if I look here, everything is now set correctly, but it couldn't set privacy to public because I hadn't set the age restriction. All right, so it's generated the video here. I have the video ID and the blob storage. Looks good. Let's go and have a check on YouTube and see if the video is now live. Let me reload the page here. There we go. It is public. That looks amazing. That's exactly what I wanted. It is now live and public and complete. Took me a lot longer to do, but everything is now complete. The first thing I had to do was create a video using veo3. I discovered that somewhere along the lines, Google has called things Vertex AI. Not quite sure of what the difference is there, but once I rewired everything up to generate the video in Vertex, the next thing I needed to do was make sure I stored that somewhere. So I used Vercel's Blog Storage to store that information. And then finally, I wanted to publish it onto YouTube. So I had to create that YouTube wrapper to make it available and push everything out. That worked fine pretty quickly. I realized that there were a few parameters I needed to set, in particular setting audio. And then the last thing that was stopping me automate going to production and going live was the age restriction. Now, if you set something to, say, over 18 age restriction, you have to add a few more information in there, and I would have had to regenerate my token key and my access key. But in this instance, my content is perfectly fine. So I just removed the age restriction, set auto selection of the thumbnail, published it live. So at that point, I now have a video that is coming out and providing that daily Camino summary update information with a little note to come back to my website as well. I was noticing probably about 20% of the traffic coming from YouTube. So I'm really interested to see if this starts to increase the traffic along with everything else. But I'm done now, and I'll see you on the next one.